Okay. Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'll call the Audit and Control Committee meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here today. If everyone's had an opportunity to read the minutes from the last meeting, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next on the agenda is privilege of the floor. Is anyone here to address the committee today? If so, please come down front and introduce yourself. Not seeing anyone here today, we will move on to our proposed resolutions. First proposed resolution is acceptance of funds from the FAA for upgrade security gates design in the Chautauqua County Dunkirk Airport.
That's the first one.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Tim Cock, Director of Public Facilities.
And good morning, everyone. John McNamara, Airport Manager. Everybody's doing well this morning. So proposed resolution is for acceptance of funds from the FAA for upgraded security gates. The design portion at Chautauqua County Airport has three new gates, 8 by 20 foot gates with new operators and keypads. One gate being to the T hangars, the other gate being on the far north side of the main parking area, and the other one in the south side of the parking area connecting to the FBO building. As you can see, total project cost for the design, $50,538, with the local share being only $1,264. That's it.
Well, so my one question would be, if I could please, 1264 out of the county's budget, great. But why does it cost $50,000 to design something that exists in any number of other airports? Just, how can that possibly cost $50,000 of somebody pushing paper around something or computer program around somewhere?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. The gates, the fences, everything is spec'd right down to the bolts, to the mesh, to the fabric. I mean, so there's tight specs on that, and it has to
And
be
they already exist, right?
particular.
I mean,
So the specs, the guidelines exist
from the FAA.
There is variations at the different airports, but the specs are produced by the FAA, and that's what shall be followed for the construction.
Anyway, I just needed to complain about the bill,
Yeah.
sorry.
I think it's fair.
Well, you're dealing with airports, or you're dealing with government.
Wait a minute. We have met the enemy and they is us. We are government.
We are the government, yeah. So are these just replacing existing gates then?
Yes.
So there needs to be a design? And again, I would agree with Legislator Johnson that it's great that we're only paying 5%, but yeah, seems like a lot of money to replace something that's there. But-
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if that's
So
what-
it's because of the new upgrades, and
Okay.
that requires the design.
Mhm.
The FAA requires it.
So this is a design cost or
Design.
just
design.
This is
Yeah.
a design.
no
You get a piece of
replacement
paper.
of the gates at all?
Yep.
What company is doing it?
This is Passero. That's leading the design, and then after the design is complete, it'll be bid.
How old is the current gate system?
I can follow up with you on that.
Just a rough estimate, I mean, do you know, like, is it 20 years old, 30, 50, 10?
Less than 100.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've used it, or at least down at the Dunkirk Airport, and you gotta be really ambitious if you wanna defeat it. But of course, the password to the thing is shared with every man and his dogs, and
I can follow up with you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. One nay vote, motion is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proposed resolution number 2 is amend the 2025 budget for probation department for DCJS pretrial service. Morning.
Good morning. Sam Zafuto, Deputy Director of Finance.
Gilbert Taylor, Director of Probation. Good morning. This resolution is to accept funding from our DCJS grant and move it into our equipment. And that money will be used to purchase one more vehicle. It'll finally allow us to get rid of all of our lease vehicles and reduce our mileage in our next budget to a minuscule amount of a few $1,000s from the high of 40-some thousand several years ago.
So you guys are getting away from leases to get all together.
We're gonna get away from leases as well as staff using their own personal vehicles in most situations.
Yeah.
The only exception, we'll keep a little bit of money in there for mileage in case there was some rare exception where we needed someone to pay for, or we had to recoup some money for them.
Understood. Yeah.
But this has taken us about 5 years to get here, but we're at a point now where this should be the final straw on the county eating that expense for mileage.
How many vehicles do you have now?
5. Well, we have a lease vehicle in addition to that. So we have one that we bought from Mental Health that's like a 2017. It's not real great. I don't expect that to have a lot more life. Well, we put pretty heavy use to it, and it was pretty heavily used before we bought it. But it was inexpensive, and at the time it met our needs.
Questions, comments?
How are these vehicles used?
Whenever we do field work, so this vehicle, because it's part of our grant, we'll be using it for anything related to the court release under supervision program. We also will be using it for our give details when we go out to execute our program to find people with gun-involved violence, sexual perpetrators. So we use it in the field constantly. This vehicle specifically will also, because it has a third row seat, will be used for any training. So when I have to send 4 or 5 people to Albany for a training, this vehicle will allow us to send 1 vehicle instead of 2.
Does it much matter how you pay for the vehicle and what you use it for?
Certain grants have very specific roles. This one, we're very lucky because the way the grant came in allowed us a lot of leeway,
Okay.
which most grants don't.
Okay. No, and then, you know, you described your specific uses and where it's coming from, so that's, it just
Yeah.
kinda,
They want to know.
yeah, I understand. I'm sure you'll keep track of that stuff to a point too, but if it's very wide open, that's good, cause honestly, it doesn't do you any good if you can only use it for this errand and that errand, and then you gotta park it and then drive this car to this one or that one, so.
We were very lucky on the way the original grants came in. And those original grants that this, will be part of are not earmarked specifically for any one task. So sometimes we do have them earmarked where we're only allowed to use them for very little. We've never accepted money to buy a vehicle for any of those because it pretty much hamstrings you on what you can do. We try to avoid those because they really we have a few, they're difficult.
Just one thing, I mean, I've been back and forth with lease versus buy on vehicles for years and years. I absolutely support buy, but one of the things as I used to analyze those things that's critical is what's your maintenance program on a buy vehicle? Because if you don't have a good maintenance program, lease is better. So what is our maintenance program, preventative maintenance program for vehicles?
Well, in our department, we keep track of what needs to be done on a regular basis, the oil changes, all of that, the tires. We budget that into our budget. So if you looked at historically when we were in the high 40s to 40, I think our highest mileage was like 45,000, and this was several years ago
Per year?
per year.
Right.
Now that we're down to, this will probably be in the $2,000 range or even less. The cost for maintenance is minuscule compared to that. The other plan is,
Well, it's not a cost issue to me, it's a getting it done on time issue.
because we have the vehicles available to us now, and we have one in our Mayville office, if we had a vehicle down for any length of time, we would be able to swap a vehicle in.
All right, so that's, you've got the time on schedule now to get it done.
Yeah, I don't wanna be weird about this, but I really try to plan quite a ways ahead in the future.
Sure.
These vehicles that we bought last year, there's already a plan in place to replace them in 4 to 5 years at no expense to the county. So we were already planning for that down the road.
All right.
I like the forethought and sense of the pre-planning, because it's important. If you don't earmark some of those things for future expenses, for replacing these vehicles, you know you have to replace it in those years, right?
Yeah.
So why aren't you planning for it, you know? And, well, question I have, obviously, you've been increasing your fleet, have you been increasing your fuel allotments? And, you know, that's something that, you know, I'm sure you have.
At this point in the 2025 budget, we are very low on fuel costs.
Mhm.
So if you looked at our overall budget, we're at about 42% as of yesterday. Our fuel costs are, and I didn't bring that with me, I wanna say we're at about $1,400 to $1,500 for fuel costs for the year. This will pop it up probably $200 to $400 per year, but we will still be way under what we were paying.
Yep.
And I wouldn't have even looked at this vehicle if this was a county expense. Since
Understood.
we're getting it as a grant expense, and yes, there is the potential over time to add some additional costs. I don't see those costs being an impact on the county whatsoever, or I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Next, proposed resolution number 3 is accept enhanced drinking water grant funding.
Good morning, folks. My name is Jessica Worsley. I'm Director of Environmental Health for Chautauqua County Health Department. This resolution is to accept grant funding from New York State. The word grant is a little misleading. This is not one of those grants that we apply for. This is something that the state allocates to us annually. They have been since roughly 2001. The number varies on their 5-year cycle as money at the state varies, but this recent chunk is through April 25 through March 30, and it is for $128,899 per year. The money is used by our department largely to fund staff. You know, obviously, as the number changes, we've got a little bit that we might put towards mileage or towards training requirements, but the large majority of this money is for staff time.
See, this grant is actively kind of promoting the pay of someone that's traveling around testing the various water sources, drinking water sources.
So, we have roughly 214 public water supplies in the county. That ranges from things like municipalities, like BPU water supply, but also any restaurant that works off of a well or any mobile home park that works off of a well. Those are all considered public water supplies. So we work with the operators to ensure that they understand the regulations, they are submitting samples on time, they're submitting their reporting on time. So it's us working with those operators. Monitoring, sampling is included in that process, but a lot of it is communicating with those operators regularly and inspecting, you know, components of their systems, inspecting water treatment plants, also inspecting, you know, well casings and those smaller sort of facilities.
I like asking the information, so I learn how many times a year are they required to do that? Like, let's just say a restaurant or a municipality, are the rules different for different things? So, like if how often do you test a municipal water supply?
So municipal water supplies are required, we don't necessarily do the testing. They're required to have the testing done and results submitted. So for something like BPU, they sample multiple times a month, 8 samples at a time. And the idea is to get samples from throughout the distribution system. For something like, you know, a mobile home park, they'll do monthly sampling. A lot of it depends on, the quality of the water. If we have seen problems with the quality of the water in the past, then they get put on a more intense sampling schedule because we want to keep a closer eye on what's going on with that water supply.
So it can vary a little bit depending on what's going on, too.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm one of your 214 customers.
Thank you for cooperating with us.
Well, and that's just interesting, probably take this offline, but, so the way it operates is we have to do a test every day to make sure that the ultraviolet system is working. We report that.
Yeah.
And once, I believe, a quarter or once a month, we hire Envirotechnics, a company out of Dunkirk, to come do the sampling and submit that to you. Does that sound right?
Yep, yes, it does, yep.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, and so that once a day is, it's not necessarily a sampling, but it's making sure that your permanent disinfection system is working. So for a UV light, you're checking the bulb, you're making sure that aspect is rolling. For something that's using chlorine to disinfect, they have to record the chlorine residual, that amount
Right.
of chlorine that's in the water every day.
No.
And there's a monthly report form that they submit.
That makes sense. I mean, those bulbs are easy to go out and don't notice if you don't look.
Exactly, yeah.
Then the other thing I noticed in Westfield, at least twice a week, if not 3 times a week, the end of the water line out on Route 20 automatically dumps thousands of gallons into the creek. And as I understand that, it's because the usage is so low that the chlorination collapses. And so it has to be flushed.
So, yeah, flushing is to make sure that you're getting good fresh water throughout the distribution system, but it's also to help sort of, cleanse the lines a little, get rid of any buildup that may have occurred in the lines and wash some of that out.
But this is at least twice a week. It's got an automatic flusher on it.
Yeah, flushing depends on, usage, and different systems are on different flush schedules.
Right. So it just
Yeah.
strikes me as a waste of water.
That's why everyone's down there with a jug, they're collecting the free water. They know when that goes off too, there's a line.
Not in Westfield.
Just a quick question. You said that the grant will be used for staff.
Mhm.
How many in the health department are gonna dedicate it towards this work?
Sure, so we have a water resource specialist who is all water all the time. We have a senior water resource specialist who supervises all of our water staff. That person, Natalie Whiteman, works with the water, but she also does other things like our public health emergency preparedness. And then we also have part of a sanitarian, a public health technician, and part of a clerk. So, there's a lot of different tasks involved in this program, and they don't all fall within one category. And as with a lot of things in environmental health, some of the work is very seasonal. So in the summertime, we have a lot more water systems operating because we've got the campgrounds, the temporary residents, some of the seasonal restaurants and things operating. So that work varies. So aside from the water resource specialist, who is 100% water all of the time, we try to make sure that we're balancing so that so nobody's sitting there twiddling their thumbs at any point. Everybody's got something to do always.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution is number 4. It's authorizing execution of Restore New York Grant Distribution Agreement with the White Inn.
Good morning. Nate Aldrich, Economic Development Coordinator. As Mr. Scudder well knows, we've been working on getting the White Inn back online for about probably the last 7 or 8 years, if I had to guess.
At least.
So we were the recipient of a highly competitive Restore New York Grant Award to help get the project over the finish line. Now that the project's complete, the way ESD, Empire State Development, does things, it's a reimbursable grant, so the grant disbursement agreement is executed at the conclusion of the project. It's been approved by the ESD Board of Directors. We've submitted droves of documentation, and we'll be submitting the final grant disbursement agreement next week to close this one out, so.
Well, congratulations on getting the grant.
Thank you.
Questions, comments by?
Only comment I make is, if you haven't been to the White Inn yet, you should make a point of getting there. It's, I don't wanna say better than I thought it was gonna be, but it's just, every attention to every detail, it's just a spectacular place, inside and out. And they keep adding on, they put this side porch on, I mean, it just keeps getting better and better. It's been a big boost, I feel, for the village of Fredonia. It's nice to be proud of that building again. I mean, it's not mine, but I feel like it's the community's. Steve is very much a community guy, and just overall, great job on the project, and thanks to you guys also. It came together, it was worth the wait, if we could say that.
It was, and we're definitely appreciative to Steve for what he's done for Fredonia. And if you can remember, that building was in foreclosure, it was in a state of disrepair. If something didn't happen, it could have been, you know, could have been talking about finding some demolition money, so it's a good story.
I think we were almost talking there. So, yeah, it's, get up there and take a look if you haven't been there. It's pretty cool.
It's great to hear this. I went to Fredonia State, so I know in 81, 82, and people said, oh, you gotta have dinner at the White Inn. So, okay, I mean, it was awesome. And then I heard it fell into some disrepair, and I thought, boy, that's too bad, you know, so I'm glad to see this. This is really good for the county, for Fredonia. It's awesome.
But it is a sweet and sour kind of story, because, and it isn't just this, I mean, you guys did a great job with getting the grant. And if Albany wants to, or basically New York City general area wants to send upstate New York money, okay, they give us enough problems, so they can send us some money. But the fact that so much of what we do around here, good stuff, is dependent on largesse, grants, what have you. And and I can think of, for instance, the, you know, Fredonia water system, that we are not putting away our money in time to make sure assets are maintained. And perhaps we don't have the money, and that's a sad commentary. But anyway, in this case, congratulations on getting the money, and I have been to the White Inn several times, and I will endorse that the food is good, the service is great, and the place is beautiful.
Absolutely.
No, I just wanted to add in, it is great that we were not discussing any demolition tactics, you know. These buildings will have a tendency to sit there, and it's an overwhelming project for someone to take on and overdo after so long. So thankful that project was taken on and outfitted. Now I just hope that they continue to do well. It's a lot of money that we've invested into this as a community and as a private business owner that put in some good financial money as well. So, you know, I just hope that it continues to do well and will for a long time. What you see is you know, these projects are kicked off and it's been restored only to have it close in 5 years. So I really hope that they'll continue to do well and people utilize it. It takes a community to keep it afloat too. So hopefully it continues to prosper. So, any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution is authorize Chautauqua County Visitors Bureau as the local tourist promotion agency for matching funds program sponsored by New York State Division of Tourism.
I'll let Andrew speak to this. I just wanted to point out that no funds actually run through the county. It's just authorizing CCVB to apply for the matching funds program, but I'll let Andrew elaborate.
Hi there, Andrew Nixon, Chautauqua County Visitors Bureau. I'm before you today just requesting the approval of an annual authorization for CCVB to apply for New York State Tourism Matching Funds. Again, we do this annually something we are required to submit with the grant application, which will take place in September or October. It's one of the state requirements to have a designation as the TPA and to be approved to apply for the funds. The actual grant amount will be $49,083, which you see in the first paragraph. But if you flip the paper over that I handed out, it shows you the formula that is used to arrive at that funding. So we'll request an amount. We don't know the amount yet, but the last couple of years, it's been $172,500. It could be a little up or down from that. They run it through this formula, and it comes out with the numbers that we get to use. And we use the money partly for county-only programs, and that's the Chautauqua County Travel Guide magazine. And then we do some programs with Cattaraugus and Allegheny. It's just a small amount, and we spend those dollars on 2 travel shows in Pittsburgh and Buffalo. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Question I have is, the state is awarding these funds. Out of which account are they awarding from? This is generated from tourism and it's a state account, right?
It comes from the Empire State Development bucket,
Mhm.
and the Division of Tourism is under the Empire State Development.
Okay.
Actually, the matching funds program is an aid to localities program. It was a legislative designation when it originated like 45 to 50 years ago. But it's administered by Empire State Development Division of Tourism.
And they award based on, do you know how they award it all? I mean, what's the formula there? Is it,
Yeah, it's a silly thing.
I was curious how we received the award, and I assumed it was coming from tourism into a state pool, and then they redistributed it back.
So they don't really have any dedicated revenue collection at the state level that goes back to tourism or that comes specifically from tourists. They don't have a state occupancy tax.
Okay.
So it's out of the general budget. As tourism businesses do better, more sales tax is generated, and the state receives 4% there. So that helps to fund things like this. The formula is, it's the same for every county. And although there are 60 counties in the state, everybody is applying for 1/20th of the budgeted amount. The budgeted amount is $3.5 million. That's gone down a lot over the last few years. So they take that $3.5 million, you request 1/20th of that, 5%. And that would be more money than the state could pay out if every one of the 60 counties got an award. So hence the formula. They have the formula you see before you, and one of the numbers is a prorating factor. It's that 0.18, whatever. They change that every year to balance things out. It's like a 7-digit number. And it's all just kind of put all the applications into a bucket, shake them around, and then hand out the grant award sometime in December. They give us our notification. And the thing that does change from area to area is the number of counties in your region. So like the Finger Lakes had 11 counties. Niagara region has 5 counties. We have 3 counties. So that impacts somehow our prorating formula. It's a complicated formula. They've talked about changing it. They don't want to because it was a legislative item from 40, 45 years ago, and they feel if it gets brought up, it could just be taken away or just pulled under the State Department.
Okay.
Is that 3.5 million been a number for a while, or?
It used to be 5 million, like back in the late 80s, and it's sort of steadily gone down the last few years.
It doesn't seem like much.
No.
Statewide,
No.
it seems sort of,
It's, there's been an increase by the state in things related to tourism, like development programs, Market New York, and just a sort of decline and then holding pattern for the matching funds. And The matching funds typically goes to tourism promotion agencies or destination marketing organizations, which are, we're a business association, but some are county government, some are chambers of commerce, but they're all promotional type of organizations.
You know, the state actually invests pretty heavily in, you know, promoting New York. You know, you see the ad campaigns or slogans, or, you know, if you stop at any rest stop on Interstate 90, you know, you have a lot of, you know, I love New York stuff or promoting it, and, you know, that extra $1.5 million that disappeared has probably gone into their own budget, you know, to promote it themselves. So you hope, you
Yeah.
know, but.
Well, the I Love New York campaign was kind of the first statewide tourism marketing campaign in the country, and many other states copied that. The Division of Tourism, though, their budget has not increased very much. It's more, the growth has gone to grants like Market New York and things that are distributed from the political side rather than the administrative side.
I watch those commercials and I get locked in because I want to see something from Western New
Yeah.
York, you know, it's like.
The White Inn.
It should be.
It
I
should
didn't know
be
you
there.
were a Fredonia alumni,
Yeah,
Blue Devils.
there you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, enough about that. No, that's a good thing.
Don't you like Fredonia?
No, I love Fredonia.
I love that they go around with Fred on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fred,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's good for your brain.
I thought they were talking about Fred Larson.
Easy.
Turns out it's Fred
No,
Johnson.
I know, I'm just kidding. It's Fred Dolan.
Any other pertinent comments or questions?
One does digress.
Mhm.
If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Pertinent,
Carried.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Resolution number 6 has been withdrawn from this committee. It has not been withdrawn from the agenda for the legislative agenda, just this committee only. So we'll be bypassing that, and we
You
will
may
be
just
going
this-
to number 7.
Just one spit to it, since I was here last night. I voted against this last night, and I would have liked to have discussed it more quietly today, but apparently not. And that's okay. But last night, our meeting kind of got hijacked, if you want, and we never did really consider the objectives, objective by objective, in terms of how we felt about them or ask any questions about them. So since I didn't think we actually reviewed the thing last night, I voted against it. So I guess it's going to be left to the meeting as a whole to actually review the thing and decide what we want to do.
And you know, without going too far down the path of it, just to make sure, you know, reach out to the individuals involved with the resolution, and then also, you know, the time for that, I guess, will be at the legislative meeting, so.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, we typically only present resolutions to this committee that involve dollars. This resolution does not involve dollars, so that's why it was withdrawn from this committee.
Okay, I didn't, no comment on that one way or the other.
Sure.
That's the way it is, that's the way it is.
Yep.
But if I am in fact free to bother the planning department about this, I shall. I don't know if that's kind of a process you really want, is it?
Not really.
Thank you.
What I would suggest is to contact the county executive's office and say that you would like to have a discussion with the planning department, and let them direct you, since the planning department is under the executive branch.
Sounds good, okay.
And, yeah, and you are, you know, you are a member of that committee, so it gives you the responsibility and ability to ask those questions, just like Chairman Shagnon said, just go through that channel, and I'm sure that they'll be willing to, you know, accommodate any questions that you do have. Maybe they'll answer them before the meeting, and you won't have to address them.
Well, and I should have been more aggressive in terms of holding things up, but I didn't.
But, and Legislator Johnson, I think you hit on a very important point, is that discussions in committees can sometimes get out of control, and you lose the opportunity to focus in on the issues that you would like to focus in on. And what I hear you saying now is that you would like to have a quiet conversation, focused conversation, that you can address your issues, questions, concerns, and that's why I suggested going through the county executive's office.
Okay, thank you. I'll catch up with you.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Proposed resolution number 7 is reconfirm Chautauqua County purchasing policy.
Good morning, Kitty Crow, Director of Finance. This resolution is similar to the two that were done last month, just to reconfirm the existing policy with no changes. I believe a memo was also sent to the committee from the county attorney's office last month or the month before, that we are not recommending any changes. That doesn't mean that you yourselves as a committee couldn't propose any changes, but.
This is something we've been looking at and working on the last, under review for the last little bit, so it's part of our duty to make sure that we've done this for the year. So does anyone have any questions, comments regarding the purchasing policy that we're reviewing?
Not the policy, but just, it's good that we got this done. We might hear at the general meeting that we got this done, but didn't do something else like last month. But enough about that. Good job. Thank you.
Working on it. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is other. Does anyone have anything that they'd wish to bring to the committee under other today?
Are we doing this?
So nothing under other. We can get into discussion. 2024 audit presentation, it's presented by Drescher and Malecki. So we can move right into that.
Good morning, everyone. Kitty is handing out the presentation that I will go through today. My name is Erica Handley. I am a director at Drescher and Malecki, and I'm here to present to you the results of the December 31st, 2024 independent audit. The current status of the audit is that we have draft financial statements. The process internally at our office is they go through several rounds of reviews. We have internal quality control policies that we go through, but we are in a position where we're able to present on those drafts today. I'll take you through this presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know. The first slide of the presentation presents the products of our audit. First and foremost, we are hired by the county to give an opinion on your basic financial statements. As I mentioned, those are in draft form, but at this point, we intend to move forward with issuing the financial statements to include an unmodified opinion. So that's a clean opinion, and that's the best that you can do from an audit perspective. We did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, so no reportable findings as a result of the audit procedures that were performed. So really a clean bill there. You're checking the boxes that you are looking for as a result of the audit. We also issue an opinion on the single audit financial statements. Those are your federal awards. We act as an agent of the federal government to audit compliance over certain federal programs. The programs that are tested, or the pockets of money that are tested each year, happen on a rotational basis. This year we tested 5 federal award programs. Those included the Child Care Development Block Grant, the Medical Assistance Program, your American Rescue Plan, Child Support Enforcement, and SNAP. And we had no findings, no compliance findings as a result of any of the testing that we did there. So again, a clean bill of health, checking those boxes on your federal single audit financial statements.
We also issue what's referred to as a management letter. This is an opportunity for us to provide certain feedback, if anything came up during the audit that we felt that should be included in that letter. This year, similar to last year, the only item that we have included within that letter, other than upcoming accounting pronouncements, is taking a look at certain grant reimbursements, and that's really derived from the timing of how those reimbursements are submitted to the finance department. So just making sure that your departments are submitting those reimbursement requests in a timely fashion. This is not county-wide, it's kind of limited to certain programs and certain departments, but it's really just a best practice to make sure that that's happening so that you're getting the reimbursements as quickly as you can. Again, not anything that was significant dollar amounts or significant that arose to a finding, just kind of an FYI that it was something that we identified in the prior year. It really hasn't caught up, that reimbursement process, so it's included again. We talked at length with management about that. And then we also issue what's referred to as an auditor communication letter. I'll go through that more on the next slide. And then there are a few other items that we issue under our letterhead. That's the New York State Department of Transportation audit. We also issue certain agreed upon procedures, and then certain cost reports we issue agreed upon procedures over those as well. On the next slide, the auditor communication letter. This is pretty standard year to year. It's a required communication that we have with this committee. Within this letter, it outlines what our responsibility is as your auditors under generally accepted auditing standards. All the information that is in the draft financial statements and ultimately the issued financial statements is the responsibility of management. So we're provided with all of that information. Our responsibility is to plan and perform an audit over that information so that we can provide an opinion on the financial statements. So it's about a 100-page document that gets issued. The only thing that we take ownership over is that opinion, and again, we intend to move forward with an unmodified opinion. Significant accounting policies. There was one new GASB statement. That's the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. Every county was required to adopt this new statement this year. It related to certain compensated absences. This did not result in any changes. I'm required to communicate with you here, but really if you're comparing last year's financial statements to this year's, you won't see any changes as a result of that. Significant accounting estimates. Most financial statements do include certain accounting estimates. We're required to evaluate the inputs that go into those estimates to determine that they can be relied on. We have concluded that all of your estimates are appropriate. These include certain actuarial estimates, like your other post-employment benefits or your retiree health care, the net pension liability, which is the New York State liability for retirees, health insurance, workers' compensation liabilities, and again, we have concluded that those are appropriate. Probably the most important thing that you look for in an external auditor is the independence from the county. Everyone that worked on the audit, everyone in our firm is independent of Chautauqua County. And then other matters, had there been anything that we are required to communicate with you, I would hear. But there's nothing. We had full cooperation of everyone that we came in contact with. We received full access to the books and records, full cooperation with everyone that we deal with in the county, which is not just limited to the finance department. We do a lot of work with social services, highway, transportation services, so we did have full cooperation. This was a quick turnaround. We come in really like at the end of May and are on site really in asking lots of questions and doing our procedures and are able to come to this point with not much time. So we appreciate all the help of everyone that we came in contact with. I'll take you now through some of the financial results for the 2024 year end. This slide here presents the general fund, a 5-year trend of revenues and other financing sources versus expenditures and other financing uses. So we really like to say that what we present in these year-end audits is hopefully not new information to you. It's information that you are aware of throughout the year. We're just verifying what has been presented to you by the finance department. So you can see here the blue line represents total revenues versus the red line total expenditures. This year total expenditures did increased by about $11 million. This is primarily driven by what's referred to as your economic assistance and opportunity. Those are your social services. That was primarily the safety net program. That was a large increase there. We have seen that across the state, that those costs increased for several counties. That really drives the increase there on your expenditure side of things. On the revenue side, revenues did increase slightly, about a $2 million overall increase in revenues. The big story on the revenue side of things is that last year had that larger increase in revenues as you were able to recognize a larger portion of that American Rescue Plan funding. So revenues last year, about $11 million of the ARPA was recognized versus this year about $4 million. Yes.
Chart clearing question.
Sure.
So on this one,
Yes.
the numbers don't seem always to correspond to the lines. So, for instance, the very first one, 222 over 227. you would
Oh,
have-
sure.
and the- or
Those
the-
are, yes, probably just flipped in that case. I apologize for that.
So go with the numbers, not with the lines. Or go with the lines.
The lines are correct.
The
But
numbers.
for that first one, that 227 should have just been on top with the revenues.
The
And the
same
two,
thing for the next one, the 234 or 243.
yes,
Okay, so go with the lines.
yes.
Okay.
Missed in the proofread. Thanks for pointing that out.
Good catch.
I was once a CFO. I apologize.
No, that's fine. Thank you for pointing that out. So this year, the general fund, total fund balance did decrease by about $7.2 million. You had planned to use just shy of $6 million, and that happens through the budgeting process. So planned use of reserves, appropriated fund balance, there are some purchase order carryovers, so there was that planned use, the intention of the county, and then fund balance did decrease by $7 million related to some of those reasons I stated previously. So on the next slide, the bar graph shows a 5-year presentation of your total fund balance in the general fund. As I said, fund balance decreased within the general fund this year, bringing total fund balance to $57,648,000. The red section of this graph represents certain fund balances that really can't be touched. So that 19.17 million represents non-spendable fund balance that's earmarked, restricted fund balance, or your reserves. The largest portion there, capital reserves, insurance reserves in that. And then other assignments, other earmarked money, that would be where appropriated fund balance for the 2025 fiscal year sits. So the blue section, that $38.47 million, that's your unassigned fund balance at year end, available fund balance. As a percentage of the appropriations, that comes to 13.4%. Kitty and I talked about that a little bit. That includes all of your appropriations, so I know we talked about some of the calculations Kitty has done have excluded the ARPA spending since that's more one-time spending. This is just based on total budgeted appropriations, this 13.4%. On the next slide, we get into the county road fund. Not too much to say here. The expenditures and revenues are tied almost one for one in this fund. Overall fund balance did decrease very slightly, $142,000. Revenues and expenditures decreased in this fund. That ties right to the available state and federal aid that reimburses the expenses in this fund. So state and federal aid, your CHIPS funding, your resurfacing funding decreased, and so did your transportation costs related to that.
Same graphics comment on 2022.
Perfect. I'll do better proofreading next year when I come, so I have those right. Thank you for pointing them out. The next slide, similar to the general fund, this is your county road fund balance trend over the past 5 years. Again, that red section represents certain non-spendable fund balance, reserved fund balance, assigned fund balance. The largest portion of that red fund balance there is fund balance that has been collected for wind permits, solar permits. So that sits in that red section, leaving the blue section to be we refer to it as assigned for specific use. You can think of that as assigned or available fund balance of just under $1.5 million in the county road fund.
Perhaps not an appropriate question for you.
Sure.
How does wind get involved with roads?
Those were permit fees collected 3 and 4 years ago when the Ball Hill project and the other wind farm and solar projects were coming online. Permit fees were collected to offset what was gonna cost the county to repair those roads up at Arkwright in particular when that work was done. And they've been spending some of that money over the last couple of years, but there still is, $2-3 million left in that.
Got it.
For work to be done yet, so.
Thank you. No.
And then the last fund that we'll go through here, the road machinery fund, 5-year trend on revenues versus expenditures on this side. This year, the blue line, the revenues and other financing sources, versus expenditures and other financing uses resulted in a slight decrease in overall fund balance here, about $92,000 decrease. Expenditures had a slight increase from 5.5 to $5.8 million. That really relates to just overall increases in costs related to road machinery, certain fuel, salaries, overtime, things like that. And then the revenue side, primarily driven there by a decrease in transfers in from the general fund. Again, a slight decrease in fund balance, $92,000. On the next slide brings you to the components of your total fund balance in the road machinery fund. Total fund balance amounted to $922,000 in this fund, with the red section representing those fund balance classifications that really can't be touched in this fund. The majority of what makes up the red section for road machinery is what's considered to be non-spendable for inventory. So there's certain inventory in this fund that those assets can't really be touched, so they're tied up in that red section. That leaves $137,000 in the blue section, your fund balance available to the specific use of the road machinery fund. That concludes my presentation here. My contact information is on this slide. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them now, or please feel free to reach out at any point through the year.
Inventory is not capital assets, right? It's salt or
Correct.
gravel or
Yes.
stuff like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Questions?
Erica, with the financial environment that we find ourselves in the country and the state
Sure.
and the county, I realize that much of that had not come to fruition in 2024, but did you put any related comments into your risk analysis section of the audit?
We don't specifically look for, that's not part of our risk assessment process.
Okay,
Really what we do is take a look at your fund balance policy, and we compare, not necessarily compare, but we take a look at the Government Finance Officers Association will recommend certain fund balance levels. They really say to have enough fund balance to cover you through tax collections. So our process is more so looking at if you're falling close to that range, how your fund balance trends have looked over the past several years, and we didn't find any issues there.
okay. Do you anticipate any changes in that process and procedure this year?
We haven't received any word from GFOA on there. It's something that we continue to monitor, but nothing specific to our audit procedures.
Okay. Because as I'm sure you're aware, as we all are, that the financial impacts at the federal level flow downhill.
Sure.
And those impacts on the state flow downhill, so there is a significant risk to the finances of Chautauqua County as a result of the changes that are being made at the federal level and the state level.
Here, probably those comments would best be put in the management discussion letter.
Yes.
That we do. I know we did it a couple of years ago, at the end of 20, going into 21, when we were discussing the ramifications of COVID and
Yes.
what we were doing to mitigate loss of revenues and controlling expenses. So I mean, that would be something that would be management perspective, as opposed to auditors saying,
Oh,
look
yes.
out for this or that or the other thing.
Right. I just wondered if they had any direction or pending direction in that area. But Todd, I fully support your perspective on that as well.
I have a question.
Sure.
You know, I've had the opportunity to sit through some state controllers audits over the past few years. And, you know, sometimes, you know, we have our procedures and then we get audited by this company and by your company. And sometimes, why does the state find things? Is it that it just, they were more picky, that they didn't like the way it was done? Or, you know, those things have arose in the last couple of years. One specifically with like a water district and stuff, about how things were being paid. You know, is that something that, you know, that the audit just didn't think was an issue when you looked at it originally, or it was, you know, and I'm just curious how sometimes those things may arise.
Sure. We are auditing under essentially different standards that they are. So we are auditing under governmental accounting standards. The state may audit under those, but they may audit under their own guidelines as well. So our audit procedures are generally not as detailed as theirs are. Our scope is wider, so that we are auditing the financial results. They may come in and audit actual specific procedures, or they may take a certain internal control cycle and audit that. So we're auditing under different standards.
Understood.
Yeah.
So you basically don't get into sometimes the procedural things, which I understand could really be very time consuming.
Sure.
You know, I suppose if you weren't limited in, you know, what the contract states,
Yes.
you know, you could spend all year digging through a
Yes,
fund, yeah.
yeah. So our requirement is to audit your internal controls as they relate to the numbers in the financial statements. We're not actually doing an internal control audit.
Okay.
So we have to look at, are there any holes in your internal controls that would cause us to change our audit procedures? So if we're seeing, which is not the case in Chautauqua County, but if we're seeing weak sets of internal controls, then we audit more. But we're not actually performing an audit or giving an opinion on your internal controls. We're giving an opinion on the numbers in the financial statements.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
We have to keep in mind too, when the comptroller's office drops in here periodically every 5, 6, or 7 years, they typically come in to audit with a specific theme in mind. I mean, the most recent one obviously was the North County Water District, and that was partly generated by the financials that we've been submitting over the last 2 or 3 years. But the previous time they were in here, I don't remember, it was 5 or 6 years before that, they came in and specifically were doing internal control review, and they focused a lot on property tax areas and payroll areas. So that they're not here necessarily to do a general financial review. They're targeting specific areas that pop up on their radar when we file our financial updates every year, or whatever the theme of the year is.
No, and understood, and and they have the luxury of just being able, like, they're gonna pinpoint an area of the budget and focus on it, and that's understood. And I
Plus,
just was
they
curious.
typically like to, because they come here so infrequently, they tend to tear into 5 or 6 years worth of detail in whatever specific area they're looking at and rip it apart.
No, and that's, I just wanted to make that clarity
Yeah,
of
no,
what,
that's a good point.
what you're actually looking at in what, you know, sometimes the controller's findings can be. And you say, well, we are auditing, why aren't we locating? So, you know,
Yes.
you've explained that, and I, you know, I just wanted to I knew what the answer was, but I wanted it to be
No, it's a
said,
good point,
right?
it's, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do we have internally, an internal audit department as a corporation would?
No,
Okay, so
no.
is that not done in county government or?
No. Years ago, you had a comptroller, which nominally was responsible for that, but.
So this is equivalent to a corporate financial audit generating SEC stuff. And the controller would be kind of analogous to a tax audit in terms of an outside, trying to match it up to a private sector system.
But we did have was it 3-4 years ago, we did have another firm come in, they did specifically a internal control risk assessment audit that we went through, and these people come in, and whoever's doing our annual audit, review our documentation on internal controls, so
So that, okay, so then.
they are looking at,
outsourced.
they are looking at it
Outsourced.
as part of,
Okay.
part of the process.
I
Yeah,
was
and
kind of curious about how does the county go about picking an auditor? What do we,
We have an RFP process that we go through.
okay,
And as a policy of your committee, we can't have the same audit firm for more than 6 consecutive years.
is that true for cities, municipalities too?
It's just, it was a policy made
Of the
by
policy.
this
Okay.
committee. It's part of the financial management policy, so it's just what we have
Yeah,
decided.
no, that's probably a good idea.
How many years have you been doing it?
Mr. Chairman,
This
I
audit,
just want.
Yeah.
this is our third on the
Third.
contract, yep. But we were in previous then, so there were 6 years between us and when we were here,
Yeah.
previous, yeah.
I did send out to the committee and chairman and the county executive the full draft financial statement, so you'll see that in your email.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? You know, just thank you for coming in and presenting today and, you know, giving us a summation of the findings of, and of the good news. You know,
Yes,
everything
definitely.
seems to be in good shape, which, you know, it's something that I can thank your firm for looking into it, but also I want to thank the financial department and all those involved with our budgeting and process, because the findings of the audit displayed the good work that everybody is doing, so,
Definitely.
thank you.
Yeah, great. And again, my contact information is on those slides, so feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else under other today?
Want
Please.
to follow up, Mr. Johnson's question about regarding internal auditing. We don't have a full internal auditing function, but we do have, you know, one of our deputy directors, and now we have an additional position under her. Her focus is our systems administration, but also, you know, internal controls. So we do take seriously separation of duties and things like that. So, and she is continually monitoring who has security to do what, and we have, really taken a, you know, since our reorganization, you know, have a, you know, clear separation of duty and also responsibilities of, reviewing invoices and paying, you know, payments going out, so, and, you know, one of the things, you know, Erica did comment that, you know, when she met with Todd and I, yesterday, that they did feel that we had pretty strong, you know, controls in terms of our overall processes, but, we do have somebody that pays attention to it. It's not like a full internal audit type function like a comptroller might be, but, we do have a component of it within our department.
Has that been right along?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of, beefed up that area a little bit, you know, tried to be more focused on it.
No, No, and
But we don't go out and say like audit some of our departments, we don't do that from our department, but, as far as the controls that we've put in place to try and avoid these situations,
No.
we focus on that more over the years.
Yeah, no, and I know, over the years, we've had some bad invoices come through that we paid, and it's ended up costing us it's been a liability. So, and those, they're going to happen, unfortunately, just the way, some scammers can work. If we're, focusing on it, hopefully we can mitigate some that we would incur.
We have done a lot of, there's so much, fraud and other things out there. I mean, we have a very kind of, in-depth process for onboarding a new vendor, who enters the payment information and who sends the payment are different people. When a vendor, contacts us to change their bank information, we have, we don't just take their email, we, call them on the phone. We've added additional steps, to safeguard, us from sending a payment to, a fraudulent person. And the same with even like employee payments, direct deposit changes, are handled, one person enters, another person approves, that sort of thing. So, I mean, not to say that, one or two times something has happened, but, we learn from those instances and we change our procedures or, tighten them up to try and safeguard from anything like that happening.
Is with the fraud environment that exists in the world today, it's very important that our internal controls are robust and that they're paid attention to on a daily basis rather than once a year internal audit or something like that. So I think that the changes that have been implemented by the finance department to tighten up our policies and procedures has been excellent. And it has to continue because the fraudsters are becoming more adept day by day.
It's ever changing, it's a fluid thing, like you said, you have to pay attention, and if something happens, which it will again, it's just that, just as a realistic world too, you hope that it doesn't, but when it happens, you adjust.
In the Association of Counties or something, is there an outside resources which keeps up with best practices on county government, for lack of a better term, policies and controls?
I mean, we have information we share with each other within NISAC. We have our team of people that attend their annual finance school, where there's vendors, there's audit firms, there's, all different, expert people there that, all the different sessions on things like that are discussed. NISAC, will share with us, new, like the ASB information and things like that as it comes out, make sure we're prepared, our auditors do the same. I do try to get my people to the right conferences to make sure that they know the most up-to-date information too, so.
Thanks, Ed.
Anything else that anyone would wish to bring forward today?
Kind of related, I was curious, how long has it been since we've had a comptroller for the county? And, since, okay.
A question I had is, what is the fee for, I don't really recall what that expense is. How much does it cost us to have this audit done?
This audit, I think their fees are, I wanna say about $65,000.
Probably less than what our controller would cost, and that's probably why we're choosing to obviously do this, so.
Well, we have to do,
Outside.
well, we have to have this audit done for, it's required, a lot of the, federal, different funding agencies require us to have, we have to issue financial statements.
Sure, and it's required to have an outside auditor as well. And like, you know, we discussed our county policy has that as a 6-year timeout phase as well, which I think is important because, it puts fresh eyes on
eyes,
it,
yeah.
so to say, I guess. Anything else, today?
No, sir.
No, if not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried, so we are adjourned. Thank you for, everyone attending today, and see you next week.
I'll just add one thing real quick. I just wanted to introduce Miracle over here. He's an intern in our department for the next few weeks, so it's just kind of getting to know how things work around here. But we're glad, he's our first intern in the finance department, so we're glad to have somebody. He's a student at UB studying economics.
Your temporary comptroller.
Should we tell them?
See what you can